Chronicles. Sorry I got a bit of a late start. I'm about to put the word out there. If you're arriving and you see an ad, surprise, I made it to affiliate. So this stream will now have ads on it. Grateful to everybody who helped make this possible. Honestly, I wanted to be able to have a format where we could talk about social issues, politics, and even fun stuff. I didn't think it was gonna get to this point. Honestly, I figured my meandering would pander out at some point and people would just get bored. But you have been so overwhelmingly supportive, so I really appreciate it. I'm just gonna let people know we're live. A lot of you get the notifications, but some people still wait for me to put it out on Twitter. And now that it's out there, I'm going to get ready to get things started. Tonight is just going to talk about a sustainable society. I know that it doesn't seem like a really big or heavy topic, but it's one that we all need to work on if things are going to be better. Because right now, despite some of the wins we've gotten with having a decent president and administration and having Nancy Pelosi leading the House of Representatives and a Senate that is being led by the Democrats currently, we're not where we should be at all. We're still beholden to people who want to see us continue in an unstable path and who fight against education and things that could really make things better for us. So it is on us to do things to make things more sustainable. And the best way to make things sustainable is to talk about things that aren't sustainable, things that people don't want to talk about, things that people say, oh, if you talk about it, we'll feel shame, or if you shine a light on it, it won't make it any better. And that's not how these things work. We need to be able to be open and talk about the things that are wrong within our society, because if we don't, how can we make it right? You can't close your eyes to the things that aren't working. One of the things that opened my eyes this morning to how a lot of people try to sugarcoat a bad thing is watching that interview with Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle. Now, I am from the US. I don't have any ties to England. I like some of their comedies. I grew up watching things like Benny Hill and stuff. The only ties I have to England is probably through ancestry, through colonization. I don't follow the royal family. I haven't followed them since his parents had a wedding. I didn't watch his brother and sister get married. It's not my thing. I'm not English. So I had an outsider's perspective. But one of the things I told my family years ago, and I used to joke around with my friends, that out of somebody in the family, Harry seemed like he was going to be the one that stepped away from what the family wanted from him, especially dating. I said point blank that I thought he would marry a black woman, but I was joking around when I made those comments. But the truth of the matter is, despite his run-ins with being an overprivileged white boy and doing stupid things. We all seen the pictures. He had those Nazi uniform pictures. You can't run from that. He grew up. One of the things that I think people don't understand is you can mess up in life. It is how you rectify and grow from that mess up that shows that you can learn. A lot of people would love to just post those stupid pictures of Harry when he was posing in that idiotic costume and act like, oh, because of that, anything he says is invalidated. But the man walked away from a cush life as a prince to support his wife and family, his growing family at that. And all he wants to do is be there for her the way people weren't there for his mother. And one of the things he brought up, which really opened my eyes, Because a lot of people don't talk about it, is how hounded his mother was when she got into a relationship that was considered interracial. Now, if you know me, I am not a fan of calling multi-ethnic relationships interracial. It makes the whole idea that two humans who don't share the same melanin profile because somebody's darker than the other somehow are of a different race. I've always cringed at the whole term interracial because a lot of people use it to continue to justify why certain differences make people less than. So I call my personal relationship multi-ethnic because we come from different ethnic backgrounds, but we're still both human beings. There's no different race involved. But what Harry said struck a chord. He said that not only didn't they protect my mom, but they were even worse to her when she entered a relationship with somebody who wasn't white. And a lot of us who are in multi-ethnic relationships has had to struggle with this, whether it was from the people around us who didn't want to give support because they still believe in this day and age that two people from different backgrounds can't coexist together. Or, and hey, sweetie, or you have society that acts like it's such a big deal. Two humans deciding that, yeah, we work together, we're in love with each other, shouldn't be a big deal. But yet, your skin tones being different, your size being different, your gender being the same is still used by people in our society to act the fool about relationships. And it is not sustainable in our society to continue to tell people, grown adults, consenting adults, what they do in the privacy of their relationship is none of your business. And we need to normalize minding our own business when it comes to a loving relationship that has nothing to do with us. Whether it's an LGBT relationship, whether it's a multi ethnic relationship, mind your business. There are way too many people who feel like they're going to lose something when two people that found each other and are happy are just living their best lives. I don't get that. But I know one thing, I'm happier when I'm just focusing on what's immediately in my life, which is my boyfriend and my son. I'm not worried about what's going on in my friends' personal lives. I love them, but I don't want to know their business like that, and I don't want them in my business like that. And maybe it's because my grandmother raised me that way, with that saying that you allow people into your life like that, you are allowing them to shape it any way they see fit. And even the closest of your friends can have motives after a while. Be wary of how much you let people in. That's another thing I see in our society that is so non sustainable. I love the internet. It's obvious. I'm on here talking to you guys. I stay on social media most of the time unless I'm taking breaks. One of the things I realized that I have to put a fine line in what I put out there. And it's not because of shame or anything else. I just think there needs to be a private life from your social life. You don't have to have everything about you out there for everybody to see. I honestly feel like people are like, well, doesn't that mean you have something to hide? No, it means you cherish your home life enough to where you don't need everybody to know what's going on in it. You don't need everybody to know your business. There are certain events, of course, you want to share with the world. When you're graduating, when you get a job promotion, when you find somebody and you're willing to take that next step. I get those announcements. But some of y'all be putting way too much of your business out there, disguising it as, oh, I'm just sharing. And then you get mad when people put your shit out there more or insert themselves into the conversation. But what do you expect when you're putting yourself out there to strangers? And I say this as somebody who, even though I hold back, I still feel like I overshare sometimes. Because it is easy once you develop friendships and you really get used to talking online to put stuff out there that you think, oh, it should be all right. It's just the internet. We're real people. And when you share something, whether they have good intentions for you or not, people are going to weigh in. So if you don't want people to respond to something you put out there, don't put it out there. And be wary what you're sharing. I am very careful, despite doing this live chronicles, despite taking pictures every once in a while, what information I put out there. Not that I'm worried about being doxxed, because I no longer have ties to like any political stuff or any job where I have to worry about, oh, this person's going to call my employer and call me a black nationalist, which FYI happens when you start a career in social commentary and deal with people who don't like what you have to say. The stuff I've gone through, that's why I stopped being anonymous. I don't hide myself so that they can't use that against me, but not everybody is fortunate to go through that. And one of the things I tell people is, if you do have a job to protect, or you want to keep your family from being highlighted in a negative way, you're going to have to be proactive on what you share, because it is not sustainable to be putting all of your business out there like that. I know it feels easy. You go from posting cute pictures of your pets and food to telling everybody every itinerary detail of a vacation thing. Don't do that. First of all, you're letting people know that your home's available to be broken into. Second of all, anybody could take your information and use it in a bad way. We have to be a smarter society in regards to the digital world, because it's not going anywhere. It is an integral part of our existence now. I don't know too many people, from the moment we can have a functioning cognitive thought now, that aren't connected. Before they're even born now, your sonogram picture is probably being shown digitally. So we need to be smarter in this day and age on what we share online. And it's not that hard. Think about it. Talk to your partner, especially if you're with somebody. It is real easy to go, well, I took a picture of this today. Should I share it? If they're okay with it, fine. If they're like, no, you don't have to post that, think about not doing that. And with your kids, you really need to be careful. Now, back in the day, I didn't think about it. I used to post pictures of kiddo all the time. He's my first child, and everybody goes through that, where you're constantly shoving a camera in your kid's face. And it was nothing for me to have his picture all over Facebook and then all over Twitter once I started sharing that. And then I realized anybody can pull my kid's picture for any nefarious purpose. And now that he's a teenager and he has a bit more say and whether or not he even wants his picture taken, I'm even more careful about what I put out there. You've got to be like that, because it is their right to say no to being put on your page or being put online. You know, I keep it simple. Yeah, sometimes I share some of the things he puts me through, like having to sit through hours of him talking about Minecraft or hypothetical animals, because that's his bag. There's a difference between doing that and putting him on the internet without his permission. And I think we need to normalize that our kids, despite depending on us, because I'm not trying to take away. I know as a parent, my son is not surviving without me feeding, clothing, sheltering him. It doesn't give me a right to put him online without his permission. And I realize that. I got to think past myself when it comes to being this mom. I got to think about how he feels and how the world will interact with him depending on what I put out there of him. The best thing you can do is to think of how what you're doing will impact things, not just for yourself, but the people around you. Because when you use that insight, it pulls you back from just impulse doing stuff, at least for me. And I say that as somebody with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, that I stop and I think before I do stuff, because I know that, in the heat of the moment, You'll post something thinking it is the most funniest or profound, or you're getting the point across, and then you look back after you've hurt somebody and it's like, wow, that wasn't my intent, but you already did the damage. And when it comes to putting your family out there or posting something that could potentially come back and harm you and your family, too many people don't think about it. I look at that idiot who was bullying this kid who wore a dress to his prom. What does it matter to you if a young man feels comfortable in a dress? Why did you think it was okay to have yourself videotape being a bully? That man, in that moment that he didn't think was bothersome enough for him to act like an adult, ended up losing his job, shaming his family, and he's far from the only person that does that. If our society is going to evolve and become truly sustainable for all of us to exist on it, we have got to stop allowing ourselves to not only cover for people like this, but say, oh, it's not going to change. It can. It can with teaching people that what other people do, as long as it's not directly harming other human beings, you ain't got to weigh in on it. Mind your business. My favorite saying is minding your business and shutting the fuck up is 100% free. That advice has not steered me wrong yet, and it won't steer you wrong. There is a lot of stuff going on. And I have had so many people in and out of my DMs asking me to weigh in on a very tense conflict. And I don't care if people think I'm being cowardly. I don't care if people think, oh, you should have my back. I've had your back by putting BLM in my profile. There is a distinct difference with you weighing in willingly on what goes on from people of my hue and me weighing in on a conflict that has gone on before my birth. The only thing I have been able to say on this is that I hope peace can be achieved. That's all I want. Because I don't want to take a side in a conflict that has been ongoing since my grandparents were children. Because at this point, it is past who is right. Too many people are trying to say, my side is right. This has happened. You should choose us. No. You want to know what I choose? Whatever path stops people from dying on a regular. And if you can't come at me from a place of seeking peace, don't come at me. Because too many people are weighing in, talking about you should back this and you should back that. I'm just trying to survive as a black person in America. I'm sorry if I can't carry the load of a faction that has been fighting for way too long. And at this point, for me, there ain't no right or wrong. There's just, it needs to stop. So that's the soundbite you get from me on this conflict. Because I'm sick of hearing how people need to choose a side. There's no side in this that could be winnable. There's no side in this that could be elevated over the other. It has been ongoing for over almost a century now, if you really think about it. When I was in high school, they were talking about peace in that area when the assassination stopped that in its tracks. So for me, with even the stuff that I've known by even having an interest in history, my place is not to put myself in the middle of it. And unless you have direct ties to the conflict, my advice to you is to tread careful and maybe not even wade into it at all. Not everything has to have your opinion. Because there are some people that are waiting in the wings for you to say something so that they can pounce on it and say, see, you're taking a side. You're anti this or you're pro this. The only thing you'll hear me say is I'm pro peace. Figure your shit out. Because this has been going on way too long. And I would like to see a land that isn't in peril. And right now, I am living in a country where cops can shoot a man in his back and the DA say that they can get off. They can be judge, jury, and executioner. So I'm sorry if I'm not weighing in heavily enough for some of you. But I've got my own issues, killer issues, issues that can't be ignored. And I'm tired of people acting like I can just pack those to the side and uplift stuff that's going on for you. I can't. And I'm not going to pretend like I can. Exactly, Beans. Another thing I don't think people understand with weighing in on stuff is that you never know who you're hurting. And that is not my intent. I try to think before I put anything out to the world, whether it's to write a passage or to just post online, because your words carry weight and too many people don't think about it. And it's like I said, we just came off. I lived in North Carolina. One of the reasons why I got the fuck out of North Carolina is because of the fuckery that's going on down there. To know that a man could be sitting in his car, allegedly having a military style squad of police on him for a drug charge, execute him, and call it justified is terrifying to me. Then you have McConnell pulling his normal bullshit, getting this hate bill passed for our Asian citizens, which I am for. Anything that furthers progress against hate and bigotry is great. But you did that while telling us that a national lynching bill can't be passed. So being black in America right now is exhausting, because you see people who will high five the fact that the legislation for Asian Americans got passed, but don't really want to make a fuss on the fact that the lynching bill didn't. And I know why, because people are afraid that it's going to be us versus them again. And I'm saying this as a black woman. I owe no animosity towards Asian Americans at all. You just don't control this. You barely have a presence in our government still. So anybody who's taking it and twisting it that way, y'all need to stop. This is on all of us who are sick and seeing this stuff to elect people who will get bills like the anti-lynching and the George Floyd Police Reform Act and the voter reform acts that we need so that we can stop being suppressed in the first damn place passed. We need less squad members who will get on news programs crying about how they were scared on January 6th, but then voting against security measures. And I get that the situation is not black and white. I get that from what we're finding out in tidbits, that there were some police people that were in on the plot. Matter of fact, there are people being arrested with ties to law enforcement in several states. But when you are on record saying that you were in fear for your life, and you can approve a budget that would not only help get better equipment, better people training to keep the Capitol safe, and you vote against it, miss me with your theatrics the next time you feel in danger for your life. And it is the same usual suspects who utilize our party's resources, our party's votes. They run in supposedly safe districts because they could never do the heavy lifting. They're not passing legislation. They're not getting any work done. They do more interviews than most rock stars, and I'm sick of seeing them. And these latest antics of theirs, along with some very questionable comments about the conflict that I, like a mature person, refuse to put myself in the middle of, shows me that we really need to start vetting these people before we give them a place of voicing for us for leadership. I think some people forget that when you have people like AOC and Rashida Tlaib as your representative, you are telling not just the Congress and your local area, but sometimes the world that this is our voice. And even if you didn't vote for this woman, if you're not voting at all, you're telling the world that she's your voice anyway. You need to vet who's going to be your voice because some people go beyond just doing their work. We don't all get to have Ayanna Presley's, unfortunately. We don't get to have Sharice Davis's or Lucy McBath's. We get stuck with squad members like Lil Miss Omar, who gets into fights with her constituents and says they're jealous of her. We get stuck with AOC, who does makeup tutorials on Instagram but still hasn't opened a functioning office. This is why you have idiots like Political doing gotcha stories about her illegally parking her Tesla. Now, if the homegirl was doing work, she could clap back and be like, yeah, I park my Tesla wherever, I'm trying to get work done. But you can't even do that. So you need to vet. And New Yorkers, I'm saying this as a girl who was born and raised Staten Island, I know, trash borough, whatever, still a New Yorker. Don't elect Yang to mayor. I know he doesn't have a good chance, but you never know. Trump shouldn't have had a good chance of being president either, and that happened. I'm telling you, as somebody who lives with mental illness, hearing him give an interview where he tells an interviewer that the police need to initiate something like a 2-strike measure, and that if they act out, we need to tell them that we're going to be tough on them. What does he think mental illness is? Because I can tell you from my experience with it, living with it since I was diagnosed in junior high school over 20 years ago, that lucidity is not something you have control over. Even with medication, if I am under a lot of stress and sleep doesn't come, because that's a big part of what happens when the schizophrenia gets too bad, sleep will not come. And then lucidity doesn't come either. So things are happening around me, but they're different. I don't know how to better explain it. I'll see things, I'll hear things, I'll even feel things that aren't really happening around me. And the shit is scary. If it sounds scary to you, good, because it is. Imagine living that. That is what it's like for somebody with schizophrenia. And with medication, having a good circle of people around me, it is a lot easier to manage, but it is no way curable. And I did not choose this. Trust me, if I could check mark things that I would have that some people consider bad, but I live with and I'm fine with, being a hefty sized woman, check mark. I'll take it. I'd rather be a thick sister any day. But if I had a choice in mental illness, heck no, I'm not going to choose this. And I don't need you sending already hostile police to where I live if I'm not lucid, telling me I've got a strike against me for an illness. And I really need you in New York to pay attention, because that whole rank voting to me sounds asinine, but I don't have to deal with it. All I can do is add my outsider, former New Yorker commentary. Y'all need to pay attention. You need to really get organized, because some of you think it don't matter until you have a Yahoo like that in charge, making things worse for people who already are suffering. It really is. And he really did fail respect. I could not believe that. I was tearing up. I literally cried because my brain was like, it is my worst nightmare. And I'm here in Michigan thinking about having an episode and having somebody hostile be sent out. And that's it. They just end me because I was a threat. When I had some of the worst lucid moments, I was younger. I was in my 20s. I was in Florida. I was definitely one of the Florida women tales. Leaving my house with nothing on because I didn't know. You are literally not in your right mind. I can only imagine had it not been somebody with compassion and empathy that found me that day, but somebody angry with a gun and a badge and the ability to end my life. And this is the kind of answer Mr. Yang thinks is okay to give to a city that's already hurting. New York does not have a clean record when it comes to how the police treats its citizens. And they need somebody with the brains and the empathy to guide a better system. Not somebody who makes empty promises, and not somebody who doesn't understand that, especially in a city the size of New York, you're going to have plenty of people with mental illness and mental health issues. And the last thing they need is a two-strike issue. This is why I say about sustainable society. Having somebody who wants to be a leader shouldn't be looked down on. I know there are libertarians out there that want to go, oh, big government bad. No, they want government. They just want government that won't tell them what to do. That's not how this works. We have set up our society to have leaders and those who need to be led. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need leadership, but we don't have a perfect world. We still separate ourselves on social status. So until we stop needing government, we need to at least be smart enough to elect a government that actually wants to get stuff done to help people. And we need to get off the kick that helping people is bad in ways. The whole social programs that help people get education and healthcare and food. When you shame people for getting food stamps, what do you think you're doing? Oh, you get food? That's bad. What is wrong with our society? We have to stop allowing this. It is not sustainable. This pandemic has taught us anything. It has taught us that we have got to stop putting shame on giving people help, because we are all one tragedy away from completely being destitute. We have watched this pandemic completely destroy homes. And you have people that want to wage shame. Oh, these restaurant employees are making more at home on unemployment than they did in the restaurant. And who do you think is at the wrong in that? You're not shaming the people you think you're shaming when you say that. I know in Fox Newsland that you can twist yourself to think it's somehow the fault of the people who are overworked and underpaid for not taking said abuse so that you can have your chicken finger platter the way you want, Beatrice. But that's not how life works. If you're not going to pay people a decent wage to slave for 8+ hours for you, they're not going to do it. And I need people to understand that stuff like unemployment comes out of your wages anyway. And there is no free system for unemployment. I say this as somebody who had to do taxes for companies and work with finance. It amazes me how many people act like unemployment just magically comes out of nowhere. They pull that shit out of your paycheck. So whether or not you ever collect it, it's getting paid into the system. So people need to stop acting like, oh, these are just entitled people that don't want to work. No, they work their asses off, risking their health during a pandemic, and they still get more not going into that storefront or that restaurant where they can be abused and spit on by some massless asshole who doesn't want to respect the fact that there is still a global pandemic going on. They are not the enemy. You are not going to put whatever feelings you have about wages on the backs of people who are already suffering from this pandemic. I just do not understand the people who do stuff like that. I had to explain it to a lot of people who are close to me that still pull that bullshit. Oh, you just wanna live off entitlements. It's not entitlement if they're automatically taking it out of your paycheck. I don't understand how you even get to that. I kind of do, because you have nefarious people who keep that us versus them divide going, who say things like welfare queens when they are the biggest beneficiary of subsidies and other government handouts. Yeah, welfare is bad when it's certain people collecting it, but not when they are. And they play these games all the time to keep people suffering. You ever think about how much society would be in a better place if more people had access to food, shelter, education? We wouldn't have so many haves and have nots because people would have security of knowing that when they wake up, they are going to have a roof over their head, food in their belly, and the ability to learn. But you still have people who would rather not risk whatever they have for everybody to have. And they're the loudest. And we've got to stop allowing them to be the loudest. We have got to stop letting them control the narrative on things. It never freaking ceases to amaze me. The anger for some people that they have on people collecting benefits that they paid into. Social Security is a big one. Mitch McConnell is one of his rotten mitts on Social Security for the longest time. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Social Security is not an opt-out system. Once you start a job where you get officially paid from payroll, that is automatically taken out whether you want it to or not. So people acting like those who collect Social Security, especially retirees who work 20 plus years for it, are just getting some kind of free ride. Bullcrap. I had my Social Security paid off because I worked a corporate bookkeeping job by the time I was 24 years old. They reamed me in taxes back then. I wasn't wise enough the way I am now to understand what I could opt out of, what I could tweak so that I wasn't having so much of my money taken out. That's stuff they don't explain to kids from where I'm from. That is education that I wish they would teach more people. But they don't because they want us stuck on stupid. And I don't understand how people don't get that society cannot be maintained like this. You say that these people are essential workers. You tax the shit out of them to cover for the people who should be paying more taxes to live a life of luxury while everybody else just scrapes by. And then you wonder when a sickness like this, bolstered by an ineffective president who thank God we got rid of, shows you that we cannot keep up like this. We don't have a middle class anymore that can sustain the wealthy who don't want to pay extra and the poor people who can barely survive as it is. So I am so grateful that the Biden-Harris administration get this. They're going to have it where taxes hit the people who can afford to pay more. And let's face it, anybody who has a decent bone in their body, or at least a modicum of intelligence, realizes that it'll come back to them. Because a healthy economy is good for the wealthy, whether they understand that or not, because there are some people with more money than brains out there. But anybody with a little bit of brains understands that people spending, people with the ability to freely spend, is good for you, especially if you're at the top. So you paying a little bit of extra taxes so that people can have better schooling, people can have better education, people can have health care so that they can work and keep your business going is a good thing. Say what you want against men like Jeff Bezos. He's not perfect. I don't know anybody in business that is. He even understands. Pay a bit more in taxes, have a bit more people to slave away at my factories. And I use the word slave facetiously. Do not act like I'm calling working slaves. I hate that. I hate that there are so many hammer and sickle anime avatar types that try to associate voluntarily working a job to what my ancestors went to. Don't do that. It's disingenuous. Yeah, in a perfect society, you could wake up decide you're not going to do fuck all today and just be able to, but we're not there. We have a system set up to you get what you put in. And sometimes unfairly not even that. And if you want things to be better, instead of sitting on your smart device with your fake profiles talking about how Medicare for all will somehow lead us to utopia, you'll actually study ways to make your neighborhood better and maybe a little bit less monochrome, because a lot of you come from that same ideal. You don't even live in a diverse neighborhood, but you're going to tell me that you know more about how to defund the police will help people like me. You never even lived around people like me. Keep your mouth out of my issues. Work on yourself, because you want this socialist utopia, which those two words don't even work together, without realizing that it wouldn't mean you wouldn't have to put in. One of my dreams is to make enough to where I can set up a community, commune like community. I grew up around hippies, so I don't hate communes. I hate the thought of the way some communes behave, but the community to me always felt like a group of people who just wanted that tribe that we don't have anymore. So many of us have roots and ancestry that come from tribal culture. We grew up in tight knit societies where we looked out for each other. And I would love to develop something like that one day. But it's not easy, because you have to be on that same mindset. And it's not easy to get people on that same mindset anymore, because we're all human beings. But if you're willing to work together and say, these are my people, we look out for each other, not for bad stuff, because some people use that tribalism obviously for bad things, but to grow together, to uplift each other, to say, you will always have a roof over your head, you will always have food, we are going to stick together. Our species is missing that. That's why I feel so many of us are angry and disconnected. We separated it from it, and now people use tribalism for stupid shit like sports teams and which housewives faction you like or what political party. Forming new tribes shouldn't be something used for negative. Tribal culture in itself is supposed to be an extension of family. And I would love to see us get back to that in a respectable and sustainable way. Because I feel like that is the root to human survival, is finding ways to be together, uplift each other, and encourage actual growth. I feel like too many people utilize, oh, these people think like me. Let me utilize that to push a narrow minded agenda, whether it's using faith to shun people or using looks to shun people. And we've got to get away from that. What society does to people's psyches is why so many of us, I feel, suffer from depression and anxiety, because we go into this world being told from almost the get we have to compete with others to prove we're smart, to prove. Why is learning competitive? I tell people all the time, I am learning so much more now that I'm out of structural school systems that it's not even funny, because we live in the age where you can literally find information on your phone at your fingertips. And if more people had the ability to learn at leisure and to take in factual information, because we have to be wary of those fake things out there too. Could you imagine how much our society could grow when we reward people at any age for deciding, I want to start learning? Not shame them. Oh, you should have learned that in junior high school or elementary school. Some people aren't set to just go into a system that grades you, tells you that you need to be as smart as this person, and you only have this set amount of time to do it. I understand now why we have so many people failing out of school. Working with my son, Over these last few years, especially having to deal with navigating special needs learning, I don't understand why we still do this. To ourselves, to teachers, to kids, it's not sustainable. And that's why so many kids don't want to do it. Not only aren't they learning at a way that they're actually retaining what they're being told by people, but then they're taking a test that not only demoralizes them if they don't get a decent grade, but even if they do, they're put under pressure to keep that up. They're supposed to be students. They're not supposed to know this. This is something I explain to kiddo every time he gets frustrated about something. You are not supposed to know this. You are a student. It really is an enjoyable respect. It is so frustrating to watch the pain on his face sometimes when I know he's not getting something and he feels ashamed of that. And I'm like, there's no shame in that. You are not supposed to know everything. That is what school is for. It's supposed to be teaching you. And I feel like if we had better communities where we could discuss stuff like this and actually work with our schools to make better programs where people can learn at a pace that's comfortable for them, society would be better. But we stick to these rigid, unsustainable programs that elevate some, especially if they already have means, and everybody else is just left with whatever. And that is why we have so much instability. That is why it's so much easier for us to allow people to be angry and upset and go to violence. Violence seems to be their key strategy for everything now because they're not taught how to process emotions. They're told that they're not getting their share in life. They're competing with other people and they're failing at it. And we wonder why our society is constantly stressed out and trying to destroy each other. It really does respect. We really, oh, the South is ridiculous beans with just the whole states' rights thing and the way they're pressed about the 1619 Project. Anything that teaches true history and not the whitewashed myth that America was just this perfect land founded by people who were being religiously persecuted. We've got to start bringing facts and truth into our society. We have to understand that teaching our history doesn't mean we want to shame people in a way that you say, oh, I don't like my identity. No, we want people to say, just because I'm this tone doesn't mean I have to act this way. And some of you can't make that jump. And that's because you're not being emotionally taught that it is okay to not like the past. It says nothing on you to say slave owners were bad. The people who decided that they wanted to cause a civil war for slavery were bad. That a president that interned American citizens, whether he thought he was doing the right thing or not, is not okay. Looking at the bad of things shouldn't make you feel bad for who you are unless you were planning on doing it in the first place. And I've seen way too many people with resist or blue wave emojis or the K-hive emojis, which really stagger me when I see somebody with a K-hive symbol in their name with the most asinine takes on critical race theory, which once again is not taught in schools, but if it was, what's it to you? Law schools teach it, which they should, because if you're going into law, you're supposed to have a balanced, neutral mindset. We all know that's not the case, but it's supposed to be. But if a school is teaching your child the horrors of our history so that they don't go into life thinking that it is okay to own a person, why would you fight that? What is your damage that you think somehow knowing the bad would make you feel shameful unless you harbor the ideal that this was okay in the first place? We need to stop allowing propaganda like Fox News to tell you that somehow more information bad and fear and anger is good. I ask this every cast. How has bigotry helped any of these people? They're still violent, they're still angry. A lot of them are getting nabbed by the FBI. This one lady, which they're passing her story around, decided to be with her side piece committing treason and was married to a cop. So not only did she get busted cheating on her husband, she decided that she was going to go with her boyfriend or side piece to the Capitol riots. So now she's sitting in jail, her side piece is sitting in jail, and her cop husband filed for divorce. Life comes at you fast. How'd that bigotry work out for you, lady? You're going to be doing a ducat at least for committing federal treason. For what? Your life couldn't have been that bad because you had time to go down to DC just to protest an election that was clearly lost by the idiot. I legit, like, when 2016 happened, as much as I wanted to participate in the Women's March to protest that travesty, I didn't have the means or the ability to just put my life as a mom to the side and travel to DC at will. I don't understand people who can just get up and go whenever they want, no responsibilities. These people were taking private jets to go down and commit treason. And yet, there's still people, especially those cosplay leftist idiots, trying to make it a poor person thing. And if you're poor and white right now and you happen to listen to this cast, I know it wasn't y'all, baby. I know it wasn't. You don't got no money to be just traveling to DC and acting a fool. These were wealthy people, wealthy enough to have the money to do shit like this. Once again, using yous to step on. And I would be sick of it. Just like I'm sick of hearing how it's always the poor people that aren't being heard. Yeah, we're not being heard still. But you're not doing anything for us. You amplify these idiots who have more money than brains talking about, oh, we don't want things to change, but we don't understand why everything's falling apart. We have to hold on to traditions even if they're strangling us. Our society can't sustain this way. Change is not bad if it's uplifting all of us as a species. Because I think too many of us forget that last I checked, outside certain biological differences between gender, humans are humans. We're all one species. And we need to stop acting like there's this great big difference between us. Women have already proven time and time again we can play sports, we can be soldiers, we can be strong, we can be fragile. Men have way proven all of that stuff. If we can move past these things that we use to say, oh no, arbitrarily, it's got to be this way, and actually grow, I can only imagine the things the people that come after us will be able to achieve, because right now we're still fighting over the freaking basic ass things. We're still asking people to give sound bites on what side are you choosing. And until we get away from that, we are not going to have a sustainable society. And I need you to understand that you aren't going to get this way bullhorning stuff. Your best tools to make things better is what you do for yourself. Take time every day to learn something new. Whether it's a historical piece, whether it's something that helps you creativity wise, whether it's just to read something, do something to make yourself better and to learn. It will open up your world, believe me. I know people think, oh, it can't be that easy. It really is, because the more you learn, the easier it is for you to navigate society. Too many people just think you get a certain age, you don't have to learn anymore, or you don't want to learn anymore because it was painful for you growing up. And I get that. It goes back to what I say about our school system in the first place. But the thing I realized as an adult is I'm not competing with anybody when I'm learning stuff anymore. The knowledge that I take in at my pace is for me. So figure out your way of learning things and embrace that. Because the thing that scares men like Mitch McConnell, the thing that scares even Cheeto Caligula, are people who are smart and people who know their stuff. And if you're that kind of person, you will get further in this life than you know. I know it's hard for some people to believe that because we really have loud people in our society that tell you that you should be this way and that nothing's going to change, and the media only wants to highlight idiots. It sells, sadly. But I'm telling you, if you're bothering to even watch this, you really are a key to things being better. It really is as simple as seeing stuff that you might have been okay with in your past, things you might have laughed off, things you might have looked past or tried not to think about, and realizing that condemning them doesn't say anything about you but that you're a decent person. Whether it's past misogyny, past bigotry in any way, shape, or form, whether it was racism, homophobia, we've all made mistakes. It is how you grow past those mistakes and owning up to them. Whether people believe you or not, there are vehement racist people out there that I feel if they really realize that they could let that go and actually become decent, they could do it. Of course, people that were hurt by them will probably never trust them. But if they really want to change their path, anybody can. And we have to become a society that allows people to stumble, get back up, and do better. And I'm not saying that as a kumbaya. You're not going to get a common moment out of me telling me to extend hands of decency to everybody because some people need a smack. I'm all about that balance too. I'm not going to open up my doors to everybody. I'm not going to turn the other cheek to everybody. I'm not going to forgive everybody. That gaslighting stuff has caused us more societal problems too. I learned early on I don't have to let manipulative people in my life just to be a kind person. I can be kind and not be a pushover or a doormat. But it comes with allowing people to show you they're the real deal too. Because I've had the crocodile tears from a manipulative person. She would love to be back in my life right now, but I won't open that door anymore. I've allowed way too many tries. I will give people enough chances, and then once they get because I didn't realize how long that sound was either. But that is some of the things that you will be able to do. It is a long soundbite. I thought it was a short thing, but I don't mind it. I'm an 80s child. I grew up in the 80s. So I wanted stuff that would reflect me in the sound rewards. And I'm really excited about this because once Axia moves in, we're hopefully going to do more of a longer format cast where we talk about pop culture stuff. We talk about movies, comics, music, stuff that we all are still into. I would love to sit and talk about shows we watch and share opinions on you about that. So it is going to be really fun. And now that we're affiliates, we'll be able to do this on a bigger format as well. On Sundays, you're going to see me game stream a bit more as well. And as always, Friday nights will be the Bonnet Chronicles, where we talk about social issues, politics, and even sometimes lighthearted fun. But I am really excited, and I really want to thank y'all for getting me here. I appreciate it. And no, I do not mind the sound bites, even though, like I said, that one was kind of long, and I kind of forgot the tantrum I was on at the time. But it's all good. I just want to say, though, I do believe that society will get where we need it to be. I think every day more people are waking up, realizing what matters, what they want to do to make society better. We're not paying attention to stuff like um, the New York Times talking about how 16-year-olds are taking on the Dems. We're not listening to the doomsayers. We're focusing on organizing, building our communities, keeping the people who need to be focused, and doing the jobs that need to be done. And if that is you, I am tipping my bonnet to you. Keep up the good work. I know there are days that feels like the stuff we're doing isn't making an impact, but it does. It does. You see our work as they were sworn in, despite the rabble rousers on the 6th. You see the rollout they did for the pandemic, the boost to the economy for the stimulus package. You see the way they are fighting in our Senate for things to get passed. And they can only keep going if we keep doing the work. So remember that when you get tired, because I understand it. Fatigue is going to happen. And yes, thank you, respect. Put those notifications on if you don't want to miss any of this. But if you are feeling like you're not making an impact despite doing all that, I'm telling you, you are. And we can only keep going up from here. But we all got to keep doing our part and working together. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I thank you all for joining in on this Bonnet Chronicles. Next week will be another topic. Hopefully we'll have some more lighthearted stuff to talk about. I'm getting really tired of always having heavy things to talk about, y'all, but I'm not going to stop because I feel like the constant reminders will keep us focused. But I would love to get to the point where we're talking more lighthearted, more pop culture stuff, and I cannot wait to start that cast up with Axiom as well. But I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go exactly, Bean. I am looking forward. I am going to wrap this up. I'm going to have dinner, and I'm going to talk to y'all online. I will see you all soon.